Today's episode is sponsored by MaintainX. Visit them at getmaintainx.com.
Aerospace and defense manufacturing.
Machines and automation.
Additive manufacturing.
Smart manufacturing.
The global manufacturing economy.
Welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals, powered by SME. From the design screen to the shop floor to final assembly, we drive the conversation about making manufacturing smarter by connecting people who are passionate about manufacturing.
Hello and welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get new episodes delivered to your feed each week. I'm David Muller, Senior Editor at SME Media, and I'll be your host today. We're joined by Nick Haase, co-founder of MaintainX, a mobile-first maintenance and asset management platform. Nick has spent thousands of hours on the floor helping manufacturing and facility leaders transform their operations with frontline-friendly software and AI. With deep expertise in emerging technologies, Nick has guided multiple startups and Fortune 500 companies in developing strategies for smart factories, IoT, VR and AR, blockchain, AI, autonomous vehicles, and robotics. Nick, thanks for joining us today. We're so glad to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, David. I'm excited to be here.
Let's start maybe by just giving some more background on MaintainX. What made you decide to launch the company and how does it work?
Yeah, good question. When you think back to when we launched in 2018, there were over 300 CMMS asset management platforms on the market, software space. And so the big question was, why did we need 301? And one of the key observations we had was that most of these systems that were out there were designed sort of for the technology world of yesterday, which was very desktop based. And as I looked out across the ecosystem, most of the way that folks were still working on the front lines was the way they'd done it 30 years ago, which was still heavily based in pen, paper, clipboards, a lot of analog, workflows that don't really enable you to get good quality data into your systems. And so the question was why? And we recognized that the people are doing the work in the field. So they need a system that works with them where they're doing the work so that they can actually get that data, not only into the system, but then get information that they need at their fingertips to do their jobs better while they're doing the work. And so that was sort of the main impetus was, let's figure out how do we enable folks to engage better with this ecosystem. And, first and foremost was to help get better data quality in those systems. But now today, more important than ever, is to help sort of enable AI to support those folks and empower them to do their best, safest work possible.
Just as a quick side note, for folks out there who aren't familiar with the acronym CMMS software, what does that stand for?
Yeah, good call out. It's computerized maintenance management software. So basically, it helps with maintenance management. You may be familiar with enterprise asset management or EAM or just asset management software. Ultimately, to make it even simpler, it helps maintenance professionals keep track of the work that they need to do on their equipment in order to make it last longer and hopefully eliminate downtime or unplanned downtime, I should say.
Got it. Okay. So speaking of maintenance, especially, obviously as it relates to manufacturing, what do most people seem to get wrong about maintenance and manufacturing nowadays?
Yeah, I think it's really still a fight or flight mode for so many folks. It's very still whack-a-mole. It's not as strategic as they'd like it to be. And so it's not just about fixing what's broken and going out and just tackling that one at a time. It's about building some consistency in how that work gets done, developing, doing preventive maintenance to, avoid a lot of those downtimes and tracking the incidents that do happen and trying to understand the root cause so that you can get ahead of them so that they don't take you down in inopportune times today. So it's just sort of zooming out and being strategic about how you're going about your maintenance. And that's the strategy that applies to folks who are running a massive enterprise with thousands of maintenance technicians or folks who are maybe, doing maintenance in-house with one or two folks and it's a small business. I think it's an opportunity for everyone to be a little more strategic with how they think about it.
You guys have customers across really several different industries. I've read U.S. Department of Agriculture, Duracell, InBev, Volvo. When you look across the different industries and sectors, what do you see the best teams doing, and how are they doing it, differently than, I guess, others that are kind of just keeping their heads above water?
Yeah, I think the folks that are really making, a larger impact today are actually going and learning from the floor and the front lines. They're actually, those leaders are going to their frontline folks, really understanding the problems, really listening to their feedback around what they don't like about what they're doing, what they think can be done better, and empowering them to make those changes that need to be done. So I think it's far too often it's almost an ivory tower type of approach where there's a system or a process that is just pushed from the top down, and that's where those teams that aren't having a lot of success or are meeting a lot of resistance. So you really got to engage those frontline folks, make sure that they're using tools that help them do their jobs better and are things that they want to actually use that help, and instead of things that are maybe more cumbersome and add more paperwork or administrative bloat to their day.
And then what happens when you're not capturing the knowledge of your frontline team? What does that, what kind of risk do you run in doing that?
Yeah, there's a big challenge today with the aging workforce. A lot of the workforce is aging out of these companies today, and they're taking that knowledge with them. So there's a lot of tribal knowledge that's leaving, and we don't have enough of skilled labor to backfill the demand that's on the market today. So it's I think the wages will sort of calibrate, and folks will ultimately go into those roles, but they're going to be less skilled, less experienced than maybe folks would like. And so we need to find a way to capture that data today while you still have these folks in the role that know what's going on and document it, so that this next generation, we can kind of pass the torch and make sure that they can, be efficient and safe and productive when they do get in role.
In everybody's, of course, talking about artificial intelligence, AI nowadays. I guess let's start maybe just how is your company using AI? I thought I saw something about when I was, researching that you do predictive maintenance. Is that correct?
Well, not more prescriptive maintenance today than predictive. I think we're able to do predictive if you have enough data, but the challenge that I'm seeing is that most organizations, and this is against large companies, large enterprises, as well as small businesses and everything in between, just don't have the data that they need to be able to make these types of predictive models that are effective. And so one of the things that we're trying to help them do today is build that data foundation that can enable them to unlock the value of and the power of predictive maintenance. And in the meantime, we can start to do some clever things with AI to enable that workflow to be done smoother and help give them some sort of little glimpses and bits and pieces of magic throughout their day and throughout their workflow that make things easier. But hopefully we're on the right path for predictive as far as getting the industry's mindset realigned around the value of capturing structured data on their frontline teams.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you don't have data, the AI is basically worthless. I mean, that spans across pretty much anything that you're doing. So what does a good, realistic strategy look for, like a mid-size or even a small manufacturer when it comes to using AI?
Yeah, I think it's to start small and find ways that can augment and enhance current work that your team is trying to do around data that you already have. So let's say you're, any size company today. I've come across all sizes to have this situation. You have effectively zero useful data. Maybe you had a legacy work order system or ERP that you were logging information in, and there's just not enough structured information to make it useful. What you might have, or you can get access to, or maybe like and OEM manuals, being able to leverage AI against those can help save a lot of time. I was at a plant recently, last week, where the guys on the floor were spending, 10 to 30 minutes every time they had to look up a few sets of specific part numbers for work that they were doing, which is, so just being able to easily query and find that information is really valuable.
You recently launched MaintainX Copilot. How does that work, and what's the value for teams that use it?
Yeah, it's like putting your smartest 30-year-old veteran technician in everyone's pocket on the floor. So going back to that example, I just shared of being able to put an OEM manual, and instead of flipping through that and looking for fixes or how to do an install or how to shut something down, you can just ask Copilot questions in plain English. You don't even need to know the right terminology. You can do it through voice, or you can type it in, and get verified trustworthy answers directly from those manuals and through your company's documentation. And I think that's the power of what we're offering today, is that it can be trusted and verified, because every recommendation line by line is sourced to an exact reference point, so that folks can trust but verify that the AI is not making something up, which is a big problem with AI tools today, is that they aren't always married to the truth.
Yeah, they can hallucinate is one of the terms used, but you're saying this is you can basically point to the data that underpins every answer, or every, whatever recommendation is, or whatever you're looking for, I guess, with this tool.
Exactly. And that's what I think is we're starting to get a lot of enthusiasm and results and value from our clients today, is that the leadership teams, the legal teams within those organizations trust that this is not going to create a circumstance that's going to get somebody hurt, or create a reliability issue that costs a lot of money, or break down that hurts production. So that's what's been really exciting about our Copilot launch to date.
That sounds, it sounds like something that makes a lot of sense for someone doing, or for a company doing AI in such a crucial area. So do you see larger companies adopting this tool so far, smaller, or is it really kind of a mix? And is it a mix across industries?
Yeah, I've been, I had some assumptions or guesses, hypotheses going into it, what we were going to see from an adoption rate. And because, some companies are very resistant to the idea of AI. They don't want to even evaluate it. They're just turned off. Some smaller companies, you may think, they don't understand it. They've been in business for 50, 60 years. They don't need AI. And I've actually seen, this is a tool that's been adopted by companies of all stripes, of all sizes, across industry, that are getting value from it, which is really encouraging, because I think there's a mindset that needs to be adopted by operational leaders today, that AI should be your friend. Lean into it with caution, be skeptical, but at the same time, the companies that adopt AI are going to, if you don't adopt AI, it's going to be incredibly challenging to be competitive in the markets over the next several years. And so the difference between the winners and the losers will starkly be drawn along a line that, we'll be able to point to who started leveraging AI tools to become more efficient and who didn't. So it's really encouraging to see so many folks getting excited about it and really leaning in, and they're getting, the folks that are doing that are starting to see early results from it that are getting them even more excited about it, which is great, because nothing worse than a failed experiment early on in a technology life cycle that gets people a little more resistant to trying it again in the future.
Yeah. And the way it's at, at least from my vantage point, and where it's at in the hype cycle, is a lot of like the crazier hype seems to have ebbed, and now it's like you're saying, it's either useful, or you can either use it, or you I guess either don't know how to, or don't have the right tools. But what's one moment in the field that kind of captures the real impact of getting this all right?
Yeah, I think I've seen folks that are in engaging cross-functional teams. So many of these operations today really operate in silos. You've got your reliability team here, you got your production team here, and maybe the leaders have some overlap in their meetings that are weekly or monthly. And but as far as like workflows and cross collaboration, they really operate independently. And so one team may be running an experiment or running something that is really interesting or successful, but it doesn't if they don't kind of share that insight and learning across the boundaries of those silos, they don't get to really reap the real benefit of that. The ones that are really leaning in and doing well, I'm seeing work more cohesively as a team. And I know it sounds really obvious, but it's just not the reality today for so many manufacturers and operations teams. And so I'll give you an example of how that kind of plays out. If the controls engineering team and the IT folks that are maybe driving some interesting digital transformation projects across their, connecting their PLCs and doing some sensors, are engaged with the reliability team, they're able to then connect that data to the system of record and work where the maintenance team is doing their work, so they can get real-time alerts when they identify an opportunity to go and maybe perform condition-based monitoring based usage alert on equipment, so that they can get ahead of potential unplanned downtime, and they can track that more effectively. And conversely, those reliability teams are able to then add contextual information to those signals from the field and be able to enrich that data as they send it back into that shared hub, so that everybody learns a little bit better. And even like the safety teams can be involved in this, so that they're able to start to understand where there's opportunities for improvement and risk that they can help mitigate. And so it kind of works more like a symphony, and that where everybody's on the same team and playing. Those are the folks that I think are doing it right and being able to get a lot of value from the hard work that the other teams are doing. And that's something we are absolutely encouraging our clients to get better at, because they're silos that have been built up for a long time. And you still hear that, there's that classic OT-IT, divide. And I think we're finding that the folks that are kind of understanding how to support one another better are doing things the best.
Definitely. And yeah, you're absolutely right that you do still hear about companies, especially large companies with a lot of silos. But I think this might be the first time I've heard to the connection of those silos, or properly getting everybody from disparate teams on board as a symphony. That makes a lot of sense. I like that. What's your message to maintenance leaders who are kind of in the process now of looking at future proofing their operations going forward? What would you say to them?
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. I know there's a lot of buzzwords. There's a lot of hype around different technologies and opportunities. The first thing I'll say is you're not as behind as you think you are. The vast majority of operations I see today are still running basically, for better or worse, the same way they were 30, 40 years ago. So it's, take a step back and don't feel too behind the times. You don't need to have all the answers. You just really need to know, you need to start building a habit of capturing what's happening in real time, documenting that in a digital format, making sure that everyone on your team has a place to do that. And that'll become the foundation for everything you want to be able to do in the future. And the tools are going to continue to become easier to adopt and easier to integrate. And as long as you have that data foundation of what that tick and talk looks like inside of your operation, it's going to enable you to take advantage of all of these tools really quickly and at the right time when your organization is ready for it. So if you are in a more sophisticated operation where you do have IT leaders and other folks like that, folks that are potentially exploring some data related projects, ask them what data would be useful for your team to be able to support, and maybe put a little bit of extra emphasis around, providing high value, high quality, high value data for those specific processes first. So that way you're not trying to, cover everything all at once, but, that, and you can start to build trust that way with those cross-functional stakeholders as well to be able to participate in their and help support their projects. That'd be some of the advice that I'd share with them today.
Excellent. Well, Nick, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us for an insightful conversation. I appreciate it.
Well, David, thank you.
If listeners want to learn more about MaintainX, where should they go?
You can go to www.maintainx.com. It's MaintainX.com. And they can look us up on LinkedIn or any social network and find us there as well.
Excellent. And to learn more about the latest manufacturing trends and to hear more podcasts, don't forget to like and subscribe our podcast feed. And to stay up to date about what's happening in manufacturing today and hear more podcasts, visit us at advancedmanufacturing.org.